So we have, broadly speaking, three sets of programs, three main programs. So like you said, we have a loan program where we lend up to 5 billion naira at an annual interest rate of 5% per annum to micro, small, and medium enterprises. Now, as at today, we have approved approximately 10,000 loans in excess of 6 billion naira. We have disbursed, I think, as of Friday, 4.7 billion to about 6,000 people of that 10,000. There's another batch of approved loans that we're about to disburse between now and the end of the month. So we expect to get to 20,000 loan beneficiaries by the end of this year.
Okay, help us understand, when you say people, obviously you've been able to get so many people come forward for loans. Help
Correct.
us understand the kind of sectors, the kind of businesses, the kind of people that have come forward.
So we have, in our first year, we were sector agnostic. So we're focused on every sector, as long as you're not breaking any laws.
Okay.
So as long as you're not selling firearms or engaged in any illicit activities, we'll consider your loan application. The reason for that was because we wanted to even gather enough data to understand where the growth poles for employment are in Lagos. But of course, as you can imagine, Lagos is a very retail and wholesale trade and service-driven economy. So most of our loans have gone into what you call distributive trade segment. But outside of that, we've also given loans to healthcare facilities, schools, disc jockeys, some manufacturing businesses, quite a number of agri entrepreneurs, even some e-commerce related businesses, etc. So it's been a very wide pool of beneficiaries: barbers, hairdressers, cafeterias, I mean, name it. So we've seen a lot of interesting businesses in the last 2 years or so. Okay,
talk us through the process. So I own a micro small enterprise and I need 500,000 naira. How do I begin?
So, well, it depends on if you use the internet well or not. So if you don't use the internet, you can go to our liaison offices where you pick up a form. If you use the internet fairly decently. So you, for example, might apply on our website.
Okay.
And then we'll request for a guarantor. So you'd have to get a guarantor whose net worth or whose income can conveniently repay your loan if anything happens to you. So if you decide today that, I just don't feel like paying this loan anymore, we're going to grab you and grab someone who's stood in place for you to say, hey, this is a fit and proper person to lend money to. Okay,
so no collateral, but you need a guarantor.
Yes.
Has that been an issue where people say, you know what, I don't have, all my family's in, another state, and I'm not sure any of them can afford to be a guarantor?
I mean, I think in my experience as a lender, not finding someone who can stand in for you is in itself a flag. We're not asking for this person to be your family. We're asking for the person to be someone who can repay the loan if you default for any reason. So if there's no one who says, hey, this guy is good for 500,000, proper character, integrity, I know the business, etc., I can vouch for this person. If you can't find anyone able to do that, that in itself is a flag. We'll also ask for you to provide us your bank statements to validate that you are indeed earning some income, etc. You can afford to repay your loan. Of course, because this funding has come from the taxpayer's purse, we would always ask you to provide us evidence of tax compliance. We also want to know that you live in Lagos, so you have a residence registration agency card, on number at the very least.
So if someone moves from another state a couple of days ago and hasn't had the chance to register, the person has to register first.
We always tell that person, go and understand Lagos, drive around the place, find accommodation, then register. So it's not for fly-by-night residents, right? So this is not for you to come from your states. Because, look, this is a state, this is coming from people who have paid taxes. Because I'm thinking other people
from other states will say, this is a fantastic scheme, but I live in Abuja and I want to take advantage.
Move to Lagos.
That's and register as a resident.
No. So this is not just registration as a resident. Come and live in Lagos, right? If you live in Lagos, then you're eligible for the program.
Okay.
Right? And because this has come from people who live and pay taxes in Lagos, the funding has come from Lagos taxpayers. So we're saying, come and live in Lagos, because we'll do some KYC checks on you. We'll verify your address. We'll ask your neighbors if they know you, how long have you lived in that part of town, etc. So we do some due diligence before we grant these loans.
Have you had any issues with defaulting?
I mean, lending by itself there's risk inherent in lending. So yes, we've had some default, but nothing that worries us significantly. Our credit loss ratio is still within single digits. And we're continuously refining the products, right,
okay.
To ensure that we get much better repayment numbers.
Let's talk about the employability fund. You're doing this in partnership with the UNDP. Help us understand what this is about.
So, I mean, I always start the conversation by saying, you know, everyone complains about having a bad plumber, a bad tiler, a bad tailor. You know, I'm sure you've had some O&Bs where, you know, your Ashwebi doesn't come in on time.
Oh, tell me about
that. And all of these things boil down to skill levels and attitude. So we're training people across different trades, 19 trades in 6 sectors. So there's manufacturing, there's garment making, there's construction, there's hospitality, there's entertainment, there's healthcare. And what we're doing is to not only train people, but also help by placing them in jobs. So what government might have done historically was train people, award the certificates, and everybody dances kumbaya. Now, what we're doing now is we're saying we will place you, we'll get job placements for you up front. We'll talk to employers of labor, understand where the vacancies are, understand the skill gaps, then develop a curriculum, which we've done, harmonize that curriculum with the employers so that the employers have confidence that if you train people according to this curriculum, we will commit to employing them. So as we speak today, we have 600 people in training thereabouts. We've already gotten job placement for about 400 of them.
Okay, so not every applicant eventually, but a good number of them.
Again, the thing is because it's merit-based, so you have to, so you get in, but you also have to pass. So not everyone is going to pass. So we have 600 in class, or 540 there, about 540. Not all of them are going to pass. Some of them are actually going through their post-learning assessment now. Now, if we get 450 people pass, and we can place 400 of those, that's a fair number. Now, for those we don't place, we also have a labor management information system where we will put up their profiles and where recruiters are also welcome to register. And you can go there to look for people who might meet the skill sets that you're looking for. So the aim of this program is not just to train people, but it's also to place them. And we're doing this, like you said, with UNDP to start, but we're looking to expand this significantly. One, to new sectors. So we're also looking for, obviously, other partners who are interested in solving a skills, vocational and technical education training problem to come and partner with us.
So who are the people who come? You have people come from the private sector to train. Who are the actual trainers?
So we've got a bunch of trainers. They're government trainers like the Lagos State Technical Colleges, for example. They're private trainers like Wavecrest, Afrinoli, for example, who train in entertainment. Wavecrest will train in hospitality. DEC Academy will train in construction. So we use both. We use a fusion of private and public trainers. And the important thing here is that apart from training and placing people, we're also helping to improve the quality of training outcomes and training capacity in the country. So after we finish this program, that capacity is here. It's not going anywhere. We expand, learning. We expand facilities. We bring in a new curriculum, pedagogy improvements, etc. So it's not just a placement conversation. It's actually a holistic improvement in the quality of technical and vocational education.
Including attitude. Does that include attitude?
Oh, very. To your point, if you take this training in 100% buckets, 60% of it is actually technical training. 30% of it is almost attitudinal. It's things like health and safety. It's getting there on time. It's being professional. It's knowing how to write a proper email, etc. So it's a holistic intervention to ensure that we have the right attitude, but also the right aptitude.
What kind of numbers do you receive? Do you have specific numbers for specific slots? And if that is filled up, we come next time or something? Well,
so we plan to train 10,000 people. But the truth is, to your point, right now we, for example, have about 3,000 people who have just been screened. We've received about 9,000 applications already.
Okay, so within the plan, you plan to train 10,000?
Yeah.
You've gotten 9,000. I was thinking that you were overwhelmed or something with numbers, because usually when such things open, 50, 60,000.
So, the thing with this stuff is, well, we've also sort of scaled it in batches, right? So we've done a first round of awareness, but what we don't want is get 30,000 people and then keep them in limbo for a year. So these 10,000 we'll assess. We might end up taking maybe 3,000 of them. When we're close to rounding up the first phase, we'll open up the application process again. But also remember that there's been a trust deficit with government. So when people see that the trainees are being trained and placed, then the numbers tend to ramp up significantly. Like our loan program, for example, when we started, we were almost begging people to apply. By the time we ended the program last year, we had 34,000 applications.
Okay, so there was a perception problem.
Of course, which is expected.
Okay, so what is the big picture? I mean, if this continues and if it's successful, what is the big picture in terms of what you expect the impact to be on the quality of skills we have in the state, the quality of manpower, and of course, the unemployment numbers in the state?
So the big picture is really, Lagos has a plan to be a top 3 economy in Africa. Okay. Today, we're arguably a top 5 economy on the continent. So this is an important lever in Governor Oyebode's tripod when he came into office. And if you recall, he had a tripod of infrastructure, security, and job creation. On infrastructure, there's some work going on around transport, around housing, around power. On security, the Security Trust Fund, you can see, is taking the forefront on making Lagos more secure. So our role is to then say, how do we help businesses create jobs, and how do we help the individuals build the right skill levels to take up those jobs?